build off of.
Absolutely, T-Cause, and that's what they really needed. Didn't want to see another year like last year, and although there was some kind of help realizing that, hey, Chicago kind of squeaked in the playoffs, maybe we can too, but again, I think now things are in order in Grand Rapids. They know Salisbury's their guy. They can lean on him. They know they have a competent backup in Bishop. So I look for the Rampage to continue their winning ways. All right, moving on. New Orleans VOODOO take a trip to Tampa. Now here's a tale of two cities, T-Cause. Tampa is 0-5, and they still got 16,000 people coming to the games. And you got teams that are winning and still can't pull half that. But nonetheless, Tampa pulls it off 66-43. 6 turnovers for the premier of Belisari, the Ohio State legend, making his debut in the Arena Football League, and not the way he wanted to do it. Kelly came out, had an injury last game, a little dinged up. And it was kind of smart, said, hey, you know what, if we're going to last to the playoffs, let me just take it easy and rest a couple weeks. On the other side, Stoney Case gets hurt as well, and it was, I guess, the tale of the backup quarterbacks. But nonetheless, Tampa gets it done, and Markham is very excited to finally have a win up there. And I've been hinting to it only because I'm not a down on Tim Markham. I'm actually a Tim Markham fan, but he has definitely an abrasive style of coaching, and that abrasive style works when you're winning, but when you're not winning, people get frustrated pretty easy. But it's definitely glad to have a big win back in Tampa, and look for the strong comeback here for Markham and company.
And not to take anything away from Tampa's victory, but there's a lot of ways to get off the schneid, so to speak, and one of them is, why don't we hurt the opposing team's starting quarterback? But I'm sure it wasn't meant to be, but it worked out in Tampa's favor, of course. The rookie quarterback had to come in, and although he started to pick it up towards the end, 4 interceptions, and those were the real difference. That was the real difference in this game. Stoney Case, though, progressing and looked much better than he did the week before. You know, he was 19 of 23, and he threw some touchdowns that were well needed, and of course he had to leave the game as well, so we'll see what happens this coming week. But nonetheless, a much needed win for Tampa. And New Orleans, you have to wonder, is Andy Kelly going to be ready next week?
I'm with you, T-Cause. I don't think Andy will be ready, and this is a guy who is similar to Bonner and some of these other older, quote-unquote, ageless quarterbacks. But I think the VOODOO will be okay. As you mentioned, Belisari started to pick it up towards the end. He just needed that actual, real speed playing time. And I think they'll be okay for a couple weeks, but obviously Kelly's going to be the guy that's going to lead them to the playoffs. And I think the VOODOO might be a team that obviously rebuilding again for the second time. And I think this is a team that will get to the playoffs, and then perhaps they can get some things together and do something. But definitely Kelly is the man. All right, moving on to the world champions here. Chicago Rush take a trip to Nashville and dominate 66-54. Now this is about as ugly as a win as you're going to get. And I'm going to attribute it to kind of an ugly heavyweight fight here, as it was just back and forth and tons of chippiness, I guess, lots of turnovers. And for Nashville, it's an ugly loss. For Chicago, it's an ugly win. But Nashville just could not keep up. And again, the Chicago team is rolling. And I think, as we talk about in the past couple weeks, these guys, with the addition of Scipio, kind of turned it on late last year, obviously ran the table, won the championship. And now they're in the proving ground saying, hey, we belong to be champions. Just watch us. And Chicago's doing it in style. And again, Scipio, you just got to talk about this guy. Seems to be the catalyst, and he can do no wrong, T-Cause.
Scipio, another 7 catches, 120 yards, 6 touchdowns. He's really looking like he is going to make a strong case for Offensive Player of the Year. On the other hand, Jeff Smoker for Nashville showed his rookiness finally with the 3 interceptions. But Chicago looks like they're peaking right now, and maybe it might be a little early. I know last year they peaked right at the right time towards the end. But if they could stay healthy, I think racking in the wins will be a good thing, because they're great at home, and if they get home field advantage, they're going to be really the team to beat. And also Jonathan Ordway, I think, is going to make a strong case down the stretch here for the Iron Man Award, which isn't what it was before, but him returning kicks and doing his part on defense is really helping that team out as well.
I'm with you, T-Cause. And yes, I agree with you, arena purists. The Iron Man pretty much isn't what it used to be, and I'm going to make another case as we get to that game for Will Pettis. But typically now what we're seeing on defense is the Iron Man is we're seeing a solid receiver, we're seeing somebody who contributes on kickoffs, and then someone whose presence is known in the defense. Maybe not exactly, big interceptions and all this stuff, but at least making themselves feared in the backfield. So yeah, of course Ironman isn't what it was, but nonetheless there are a few standout guys. But let's move on. KC takes a trip to Las Vegas, and here's a team I read a couple articles and talked about. These guys need some wins to bring fans in the stands. They got a new arena, the New Orleans. I've been in that arena a couple different times. It's very nice, very quaint, very definitely suited for arena football. But no one wants to come see a losing product, especially with everything else that's going on in Las Vegas. And Sean King isn't exactly bringing them in as the Gladiators go down poorly with 4 turnovers. KC, big defense, looked fabulous. And again, Phil Yaw is just back in the rhythm now, and they dominated 65-31.
Yeah, the turnovers killed Las Vegas here. And you want to talk about a team in turmoil. This is the Gladiator team. They don't have any real leaders stepping up, and I know there's problems there with the coaching staff and players as well. But this particular game, I think, really shows the direction Kansas City's going. Raymond Philyaw really couldn't even miss in that first half, and he played excellent game, and I think this is a good confidence builder for Kansas City to go ahead and get that road victory, and I think they're really going to continue to prosper off this win.
No, I agree, T-Cos. Philly's doing fantastic, and you got to be ecstatic if you're a KC fan. Already more wins now than they had all last year, so things are definitely going in the right direction in Kansas City. All right, let's get to the Monday night game. 57-49, Georgia Force beat up the Philadelphia Soul. And when I talk about beat up, I mean literally. These guys were chippy, as they say, all night long, going back and forth. I think Georgia racked up 17 penalties or something like that. And some deserved, some not. But I think the key to this game, T-Cause, was the way Georgia used the pass rush to get to Graziani. And they got, I think half of those penalties were offsides, but nonetheless, they were hitting Grazi, getting in his face, and it made him human. And on the other side, Greason showed he was tough, or Grayson, they were calling him on Monday night, showed how tough he was, took a great hit. Then the next play came back, threw a touchdown pass, somewhat controversial, but nonetheless, Georgia just had too much firepower. And what I notice about Georgia, and what I think is fabulous about these guys is, again, with 3 solid receivers, you know, if one guy's down, the other 2 step it up. This time it was not Lee, it was more of Bergeron and more of Jackson. And Lee was kind of caught a few here and there, but it was Jackson and Bergeron that were making the big plays. And again, next week they may key on Jackson and slow him down, and Lee and Bergeron may pick it up. But I'm thinking, T-Cause, and maybe you can align me here, I'm thinking it's going to be Dallas and Georgia in that conference championship.